చూసుకుంటున్నారు కదా, చెక్ చేసుకుంటున్నారు కదా. ఇక్కడ వస్తుంది కదా. ఎంతమంది స్టూడెంట్స్ అటెండ్ అవుతున్నారా మామూలుగా? Good afternoon, everybody. So we have discussed about maternal and child health, geriatric health, tribal health, and now we will talk something about mental health also. So mental health means you may be thinking in terms of psychiatric disorders. I will not be talking much about psychiatric disorders. Psychiatry is a very big discipline by itself, very ancient discipline also, which you will be taught in internal medicine, part of internal medicine course classes. So I don't want to touch upon that. What I want to emphasize is mental health and its promotion, and what government is doing to promote this mental health. So that will be my topic. So what is the definition of health? You know, health is a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being, and not merely absence of disease or infirmity. Mental health is a state of well-being in which individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope up with normal stresses of life, can work productively, and is able to make contribution to his community. This is WHO's definition of mental health. And WHO also has specified something about spiritual health. So a fourth dimension to health was recognized and was elucidated as follows. The spiritual dimension is understood to imply a phenomena, not material in nature, but belongs to the realm of ideas, beliefs, ethics, and values that have arisen in the minds and conscience of human beings, particularly ennobling ideas. Ennobling ideals have given rise to ideals that aim at goals that has both material and non-material components. A fourth dimension to health was if the material component of the strategy is the one which can be provided to people, non-material component or spiritual life is the one which has to arise within the people and communities in keeping with their social and cultural patterns. The spiritual component plays a great role in motivating the people's achievements in all aspects. This is World Health Assembly 3713. So now today's topic basically is definition of mental health promotion. So how WHO defines mental health promotion? Mental health promotion, it is a process of enhancing the capacity of individuals and communities. It is a process of enhancing the capacity of individuals, note the word capacities, and communities to take control over their lives and improve their mental health and adopt those mental health promotion strategies that utilize and foster a supportive environment that support individual psychological resilience. Now I will be talking to you extensively about this psychological resilience, something like physical health. So psychological resilience, that is very important. What is psychological resilience? Psychological resilience is a dynamic process. It is not a passive process, or not a fixed and static process, but it is a dynamic process where the individual exhibits positive behavioral adaptation. Please note the word positive behavioral adaptation when they encounter challenges, number one, adversities, number two, difficult times, and then emotional or physical trauma, and then threats and a tragedy. So that is what is psychological resilience. So it is a dynamic process. It is not something like, it is not like some building muscles or anything like that. So now let us look at the mental disorders. A status report. Global estimates reveal that approximately 450 million persons suffer from one or other mental disorder. Number of persons who suffer from mental disorders in a year in the United States of America is 75 million. Prevalence of mental health disorders in USA in any given year is 34.5% of the population. This is mental health disorders, not psychiatric disorders. So, number of persons who suffer from serious mental disorders in India is around 75 million. So, prevalence of serious mental illness in India is 6.5% because our population is larger. So, you can see United States of America and certain countries which are in dark red. And actually, India is a little better. It is at least in orange or saffron color. Global estimate. So global estimates also reveal that 14.5% of disability adjusted life years loss is due to mental disorders. In USA, the loss of days due to mental disorders is estimated to be around 15.6%, and loss to US economy is put around $79 billion approximately. In India, days loss is estimated to be around 11%, and there is no estimate in terms of rupees lost to economy. All cardiovascular diseases put together cause a daily loss of 18.6%. So, you can understand the importance of the discipline of psychiatry and the problem of mental health. Unfortunately, we don't attach that much importance to psychiatry as much as we attach to the cardiology or neurology. So, daily loss caused by mental disorders far exceeds that caused by diarrheal diseases, pulmonary tuberculosis, cancer, etc. If left alone, death due to depression may far exceed death due to cardiac arrest by 2020. This is an estimate. So, one of the worst kind of manifestations of mental illness is suicides. You can see suicide rate 7.8% 1950, and by 2005 it has risen to 11%. And in that, suicides are predominantly a male phenomena, females only 2.5%. So in India, so again India is catching up with the United States. You can see it is at 11. It started at lower level 6.3 in 1960, and by 2009 it has caught up to 10.5. Here also it is predominantly male predominance only is there. So now this by gender I don't want to elaborate. Now mental disorders. I'm going back. So now National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences is a premier institution located in Bangalore, and they conduct so many field studies and surveys. And the field studies and surveys, based on field surveys and studies conducted, so they have prevalence of non-communicable disease per 1 lakh per population. First of all, let us see mental illness 650 per 1 lakh population, whereas COPD and asthma 405, diabetes is 310, and cerebrovascular disease is 290, and blindness is 141. But in spite of this glaring phenomena, we attach a lot of importance to pulmonary medicine, diabetology, when discipline has come, and then heart disease, neurology, because they cause dramatic loss of life, nothing else. And from 650 in 10 years, mental illness prevalence has increased to 800 per 1 lakh of population. And at the same period, COPD has registered almost all that much rise, and also diabetes and all the other diseases. So disease burden due to mental illness, mood disorders throughout the. So in 2010 it was 110 lakhs, risen to 120 lakhs, and mood disorders from 180 lakhs it has risen to 200 lakhs, and then alcohol dependence syndrome. I have already told schizophrenia 31.6 lakhs to from 31.6 lakhs to 32.8 lakhs, and prevalence in the population is 3 per thousand. Epilepsy 9.6 lakhs, so 11.2 lakhs in 2015, and prevalence is 9. All major psychiatric problems 7.5 crores. From 7.5 crores they have raised into 8.1 crores, and prevalence is 65 per thousand population. So common mental disorders, and then dementia and MR, you can see these are most often discussed, Alzheimer's and things like that. But their prevalence in the population is 2 per thousand and 1 per thousand respectively. So mental health scenario, where India stands with respect to mental health. To ensure good mental health, what is required is a sound mental health policy. In the world, nearly 110 countries are having that, and India, as on date, it is not having a mental health policy. And a mental health plan, say 138 countries are having a mental health plan. Yes, we have a mental health plan in place, partially implemented, without much funding and etc. So mental health legislation, it is there in 109 countries. Of course, we are having a very good mental health legislation. And percentage of health budget allocation to mental health, the world out of 4. So in the world they allot all put together, it is 2.8%, whereas in India allocation to mental health is 0.4%. So human resource scenario in India, psychiatrist requirement is 12,000, availability is 2,800, deficit is 70%. And clinical psychologists requirement is 18,000 and availability is 540 and deficit is 97%. Psychiatric social worker, 24,000 is requirement, we have 2,400, so deficit is 90%. Mental health nurse, we require 42,000 people, nurses, and we don't have clear-cut statistics about mental health nurses. So what are the ground realities with respect to mental illness in India? What are the ground realities? Social stigma is attached to problem of psychiatric illness in all walks of life. And lack of firmness and cohesive plan to tackle problem of substance abuse disorders. Just putting advertisements, tobacco is dangerous to health, that won't stop the problem. So first contact consultancy among 70% of psychiatric patients are faith healers, not even MBBS doctors. So first contact consultancy among 70% of the psychiatric patients are faith healers. In remaining 30% patients, 70% approach general health services first. Even district headquarters hospitals do not run psychiatric outpatients daily, let alone taluk hospitals. And medical college hospitals run psychiatric outpatient clinics, but they have relatively small or number of beds for inpatient care. So assuming that a very seriously ill psychiatric patient requires only 1 month hospitalization, we in India require 2 million bed months, approximately 1,67,000 beds. Present availability is 30,000 beds and deficit is around 70%. We have 1 bed per every 40,000 patients, 1 psychiatrist per 5 lakhs population. So assuming that prevalence of psychiatric illness in India is 65 per thousand, The number of mentally ill persons will be 7.5 crores. Assuming that average cost of psychiatric medication is rupees 300, we require rupees 2,250 crores per month, approximately 27,000 crores per annum for medicines alone. Present allotment of budget for mental health program in 2011 and 12 budget. Afterwards, I don't have specific information, is 103 crores. This constitutes 0.5% of the budget of health sector, which is around rupees 23,000 crores. So, now we can understand from this that what we can take up is certain measures which are likely to promote mental health, especially this psychological resilience amongst the younger population, especially. So, causative factors of mental health. So, it is an interplay of biological factors, social factors, psychological factors, and then there come mental and behavioral disorders. So, psychological resilience. This I am talking very important according to me. Nobody is focusing on that. We cannot have we cannot fill in the near future. We cannot fill that 70% gap of psychiatrists, 90% gap of psychologists, clinical psychologists, and 90% gap of psychiatric social workers. It is not possible for us. We cannot imitate a Western mode. So we have to go to strengthen the psychological resilience of the general population. That alone is the way out. So dynamic process. So psychological resilience, already I have told, it is a dynamic process whereby individual exhibits positive behavioral adaptation when they encounter challenges, number one, adversities, trauma, threats, and some kind of a tragedy. So here, let us look a little bit into the psychology and what aids, what is the fulcrum of the psychological resilience. So infancy, that is a critical transition. This is according to Erik Erikson, a very famous psychologist. He has identified 6 important psychological transition periods or crisis periods, what he called. So one is infancy. So what is the plus point the infant is having? Hope. He is full of hope. And what is the psychosocial crisis which he is likely to face? Trust versus mistrust. And relationship, I can't expand all this psychosocial crisis. It takes a lot of time. So just you try to understand this by yourself. So relationship, the main person who can tide him over the crisis is mother. And now critical activity is the breastfeeding. So toddler under 5. So virtue. So you promote breastfeeding, you are promoting psychological resilience in the person. So toddler under 5. What is his virtue? He has got a will of his own. He wants to do. He wants to stick to his guns at any cost. Sometimes very adamant. Very quarrelsome also. But now what is his crisis? He is autonomous as well as he has got a doubt. Can I succeed? So that is the crisis. So relationship, parents. So both the parents come into the picture as far as toddler is concerned. And critical activity is proper toilet training. I don't want to expand on this. Each has got its own importance. So childhood school. So virtue, by that time he acquires purposeful behavior. Yes, I should win in kabaddi or in cricket. I should score so many runs. Like that, he will achieve. That is his virtue. And conflict is between initiative and guilt. And now whole family comes into the picture. Key and pivotal relationship is the whole family. And then critical activity is preschool education. So critical transition. What is the school to adolescence? Virtue is he develops competence. And psychosocial crisis is industry versus inferiority. And relationship with school. And environment free from discrimination. Critical issue is that in the school he should never be discriminated, either based on the caste or religion or on the amount of wealth a person possesses. In such matters he should never be discriminated. So, environment free from discrimination. Adolescence. Now he develops another quality, fidelity, a commitment to a particular individual. Identity versus role confusion. That is one of the very important things. This adolescent is neither with the adults nor with the kids. So, what am I? So, that is another. So, identity versus role confusion. Role confusion is that. And friends and role models. Here, role models. That is what so many lakhs of people, probably Sachin Tendulkar, a role model, would have brought them into a very good frame of mind and a lot of psychological strength. So, friends and role models and life skills management. It is here, it is very, very important. Life skills management should be a part and parcel of the curriculum. It is more important than your social sciences or social studies or learning a particular language and all those things. This life skills management is very important, and that is the critical issue. So, psychosocial development challenges. So, critical transition is marriage, another critical thing. So, virtue is now by the time he becomes capable of love, and psychosocial crisis is intimacy versus isolation. And then relationship is friends and life partners. And critical issues is counseling about career and marriage. Now, stabilization of the family. Critical transition is again stabilization of the family. The virtue he develops is care. And then psychosocial crisis is generativity versus stagnation. And relationship is household, family and workmates. And then critical issue is economic and social security. Critical transition 65 to death. Virtue is his wisdom. Psychosocial crisis is ego integrity versus despair. Relationship, he becomes very broad in his relationships, mankind and my kind. So, critical issue is old age security. For him, that is the critical issue. So, you can see the areas. So, ventromedial prefrontal cortex and medial prefrontal cortex, amygdala, these are the most important areas concerned with psychological resilience in our brain. How do you know? Neurohormones of resilience are cortisol. It increases in arousal, vigilance and focused attention. Site of action is hippocampus, amygdala and prefrontal cortex. And epiandrosterone, anti-cortisol, anti-glutamatergic activity. Site of action is same hippocampus, amygdala and prefrontal cortex. And CRH, pituitary stimulation reduces reward experience and trigger of expectations and a trigger of parturition. So, hypothalamo-hypophyseal axis and CRH2 receptors in the brain. So, substance, another thing, locus coeruleus or norepinephrine system, locus coeruleus norepinephrine system. So again, norepinephrine is inhibition of parasympathetic outflow. So hippocampus, amygdala, prefrontal cortex, nucleus tractus, salivary areas, all these things. And testosterone, anti-cortisol, anti-glutamatergic activity, and site of action is same. For all of these, site of action is the same. So then neuropeptide increases in adaptive response, decreases memory retention of stress, inhibition of LC and CRH decreases sensitivity to consequences. So paraventricular nucleus of hypothalamus, septo-hippocampal nucleus and nucleus solitarius. And dopamine, anxiogenic action, dopaminergic receptors. So what are the neurotransmitters of resilience? Most important is galamine, co-expressed with any inhibitory related transmitter, precentral cortex, amygdala and hippocampus. Next is serotonin, so anxiogenic action through 5-hydroxytryptamine 2A receptors and anxiolytic action through 5-hydroxytryptamine 1A receptors. And again, site of action is prefrontal cortex and nucleus accumbens. So benzodiazepine receptors, reduction in density of receptors in post-traumatic stress disorders, diffusely distributed in cerebral cortex, and GABA, G-ultimate estrogen, postulated to be having a role not fully demonstrated. So psychological resilience, biological factors in mental health promotion. Body's response to psychological stress and its efforts to attain equilibrium is described by a term, allostasis. Inadvertent and acute stress carried by neuropsychological system of human body is called as allostatic load. There are several neurohormones which facilitate stress response and thereby enhance allostatic load, and there are several which counterbalance the harmful side effects of those neurohormones. So neurohormones and transmitters that increase allostatic load are cortisol, norepinephrine, estrogen and testosterone. Neurohormones and transmitters that decrease the load are dihydroepiandrosterone and neuropeptide Y. And neurohormones and substances that have a dual action are CRH, galamine, serotonin and dopamine. Oh, sorry. Again, same thing, what I have shown there, it is in enlarged version. Where receptors work, that is what they are showing. So dynamic process, again, this is again a definition. Psychological dynamic process whereby individual exhibits positive behavioral adaptations. What are the kinds of problems when they encounter adversities such as ethnicity issues, poverty, social discrimination, gender, aging, and malnutrition? All these are factors which throw an adverse effect. So what can society do about it? There is a lot which society can do about it. Then the psychological resilience will automatically come. But unfortunately, we are doing everything possible to aggravate these things. Psychological dynamic. So several other processes, social events, which will attack psychological resilience. Indebtedness and insolvency, marital discord and divorce with spouse, loss of employment, communal riots, obligatory migration due to civil wars, etc., medical catastrophe in the family, and death of a sibling or a spouse, and sexual abuse. So psychological resilience, dynamic process whereby individual exhibits Positive behavioral adaptation when they encounter acute existential trauma. Existential trauma. This is existential trauma. The very existence is at stake. Earthquakes, drought and famine, marginalization of the communities, professional obsolescence, and wars. So, psychological resilience, contributing factors for mental health promotion. Psychological resilience of an individual can be ensured and built up by measures such as population strategy for promoting breastfeeding, community-based education of families, parent-teachers associations, and life skills education to students and training of teachers to impart education, training in stress management techniques to those who are at risk, inculcating problem-solving attitude in all phases of academic curriculum, and social networking skills, and then counseling that helps to figure out positive meaning in every critical transition and psychological transitions. Human brain essentially is a social brain. Over the past 2 decades, neuroscience research has transformed our understanding of brain. 3 insights have been fundamental. We now recognize the brain as a dynamic organ capable of remarkable changes in how cells are connected and even in the number of cells available throughout life. We now recognize considerable individual variation in the relationship between brain anatomy and function. Thomas Roland Inselt. So we now appreciate a stunning level of modularity in the brain with circuits dedicated to highly specific functions such as verbs versus nouns and inanimate objects versus animate objects. In summary, social neuroscience studies are revealing how social experience influences the developing brain, and brain in turn can process social information. So, elements of mental health, the Ottawa Charter, 10 elements of mental health. It is promotion and demotion, McDonald and O'Hara. So, self-management skills, emotional processing, self-esteem, environmental quality, social exclusion, stress, and emotional negligence and emotional abuse and environmental deprivation. So, certain factors, these factors, what are the factors? Social exclusion, stress, emotional negligence, emotional abuse, and environmental deprivation. All these adversely affect the mental health, and they are also elements. And then environmental quality, improve good quality environment, self-esteem, and emotional process, self-management skills, social participation. These are the things which positively contribute to the mental health. So mental health population, it has got 2 approaches: whole population approach, multi-sectoral environment and intersectoral coordination, and community participation, and enablement and education of the family, enablement and education of the individual, and healthy respect towards prevalent cultural and social norms of specific community. Whole population approach, removal of stigma and apathy towards mentally ill. That is the most important thing. Whole population that should go. Promotion of breastfeeding. And then improvement of nutritional status. Improvement of housing. Alleviation of poverty. And legislation protecting the mentally ill and potential victims of social and gender discrimination, social security and disability compensation. Strengthening of family as an institution. And formulation of mental health policy. So, mental health promotion, multi-sectoral approach. Sectors that need to be involved are legal, that is substance abuse and victims of discrimination, education, life skills management, they have to teach in the schools, health, care of the mentally ill, mental health data generation, research, training of medical personnel. And then agriculture, social welfare, parliamentary bodies for policy formulation, monitoring and evaluation, international agencies and NGOs. All these persons are engaged in mental health promotion. So this is the main introduction to the subject of mental health. Next class I will be taking epidemiology of mental health, and the last class I will be talking about district mental health program. Right? Thank you. Thank you. Amaya.